And we are live. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. I'm so excited today. I'm gonna go on over to Instagram and go live on Instagram too. So you know that when we go live on Facebook, we go live on Instagram at the same time, and on our very fresh and new YouTube channel. So today is a very special day. I'm so excited, guys. Let's come on and let's do this. Let me show you someone special. First of all, there was supposed to be a pair of them today, but only one person can make it, and so we are still very happy that one person can make it. Um, This is May. May is Brain Cancer Awareness Month. And it's a sobering thought when you think about the brain and that it is the center of all um, human existence, so to speak. And to have something going on in your brain is devastating. And today, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about brain cancer. Hi, this is great. People are beginning to come in. So let's have a couple more people come in before I introduce our guests so you guys don't miss anything. Yeah, yes. Keep doing this. Keep coming on. Keep coming on. Come on, guys. We're not going to stay long. It's a very busy Sunday. Actually, we just came in not long ago because it's graduation. It was graduation Sunday in church today for us, and you know that our girl is graduating this week. So it was been a very busy week up until today. So we kicked off graduation week with our church service, which was graduation Sunday. We had 7 graduates, high school graduates, and then we have several other people who are graduating from colleges, master's program, and all of that. And so it was a very busy Sunday. But something else special also happened. We had an avenue where the church provided each family with a table, and then you get to do this special thing for your child and just decorate the table however you wanted it. I'll share a photo with you guys later on. But as we prepare to listen to Eric talk about DIPG, which is going to tell us everything about it. Because this is May Brain Cancer Awareness Month that we've been talking about on our Facebook group and our um, Instagram page, even on our LinkedIn. We've been going on with the awareness all month, right from May. So this is an opportunity for us to learn firsthand from someone who's gone through this. That's why I'm hoping that a lot of people come on today so we can, learn about brain cancer, learn about the journey from the people who have experienced it, learn about what they are doing to advocate, and how they're dealing with the pain and everything. And they're going to tell their story. It's not something that someone can tell for you. And we are just so happy to have this opportunity to have Eric here with us. I will tell you the story of how we met and how we drove like an hour from each of our locations to meet up for a purpose. Because God does things, there are things that God just does, that way He brings people into your life and you can't really explain it. This is one of those stories. So, hi, Rosalind, welcome on. People are coming on. Come on, guys. Let's do this. We are almost at 4 minutes since we started. We need more people to come on, and let's see it. I know that's probably have some people on Instagram watching yeah, we have a couple people on Instagram and some people here on Facebook. Let's have more people come on, guys, please, so that we can start. And you can also watch as I know some of you like watching as a group. That's fine. I'm fine with that, so long as we get to pass the message on. So yeah, hang out with your friends and put on, especially our friends in Nigeria, so they don't need to buy more data. You can just watch on one person's phone. That's fine. So let's come on, guys, so that we can do this. What we're gonna do is bring on Eric and bring on my other part, and let's have them. I think this is gonna be very interesting. Let me do this. I'm gonna bring Eric on first.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's
Of
truly an
course.
honor to be
Thank
here with you.
you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you perfectly.
Good. Thank you for being here. And so unfortunate that Cynthia couldn't be here. But it's like I learned that they call this month Maycember because of the graduation and everything happening with the end of the year.
It
It
is
is
hectic.
crazy. I know it's crazy over there too. Um, so let me also add someone special to this group so you guys can meet for the first time.
Hello,
Well,
Eric.
hello.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sunday. It's nice to meet you, Eric. Thank you
Nice to
for
meet you.
joining us here today.
Like I said,
Yeah,
thank you for having me. I feel so blessed that you guys reached out. So thanks again.
yeah, we appreciate your help. I've been hearing your stories, and so happy that we could partner to spread the news about cancer and touch lives as much as we can in our own little ways. Thank you again.
Amen. Yes, thank you.
So this is Eric. Last September, there is an event called Cure Fest. It's coming up this September again. It's a September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, as we all know. And I was in Washington D.C. and got to meet this wonderful family. They lost their child to the same cancer that Eric lost his child to. Their child was a girl named Sunny, and Eric's son was named Santiago. You can see in his name is Santiago Strong. They we used to call Academia Nemo Strong. We used to call ourselves Nemo Strong back when he was in treatment. So we I met with Sonny. We exchanged contact. Sonny's dad. We exchanged contacts. I got to meet the family, and they were giving out these beautiful little cars to kids. And when I was at that table, we were talking about it, and just I'm like, oh, these are beautiful little things that you give to kids. And kids were really drawn to their table, of course, because of that. And just a little conversation that we had, and they offered probably like I was like, can you give me some of these? We usually send things back home to Nigeria. And it was like, of course, why not? We can give you more than, in fact, he started giving me some that we were already at the event. He started giving me some. And then he said, you know what, Eric, I'm going to reach out to Eric and we can all have a conversation. And there is more. You can get more. And that was how I got to meet Eric. And then we spoke on the phone, and you know, it was November, I think, and
Yeah.
I drove an hour from where I live, and he drove an hour from where he lived, and we met at a central place, and he gave me 2 boxes full of these toys, which are in Nigeria presently. And that just started that conversation about both our kids being lost to cancer and what we are doing in our own little spaces to change the world in our own little way, to advocate for the future. Because at this point, like we said, none of us have anything in this journey anymore. It's about the future now. It's about the kids that are coming after our kids and how we can save these kids, because both our kids got very devastating diagnoses. My son got desmoplastic small round cell tumor, which is a very aggressive malignant tumor sarcoma, and his son got DIPG, which is going to tell us all about. Um, and like I said, this is my husband, Sunday. He once in a while makes a rare, very rare appearance on this live. He's presently at work, and I'm so glad that he was able to join just to be able to say hello to you, Eric, and thank you for the wonderful work that you're doing. So whenever he's ready, if he's ready to go back to work, I'll just let him go because he's at work presently.
Well,
Yeah, thank you,
again,
Eric. But yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself to you and to just let you know that you're very deeply appreciated for all you do and your services and for being a part of this program tonight. We really appreciate that. It's not never a wonderful story to lose a son, a child, and it's just admirable that we can channel our pain to things more positive, and that's what we're trying to do and let people know how real it is that what we go through as a family, as individuals, as a group, and know what we can do to make lives better for the future, for everyone else, you know. And so thank you for sharing your story with us today, and we look forward to hearing more about what you have to tell us. Thank you. I may have to run off now because I'm still at work. I got a couple of things to do, but thank you, everyone. I'll be listening in as much as I can. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you,
All
sir.
right. Okay, then. Thank you, sir. Bye bye. Yeah.
Bye bye.
All right, so I've taken him off. Thank you, Eric, so much. I know that Sunday afternoon over here, people just like to hang out and chill, but we take this work that we do seriously, and I know that you do too. So I know that having this time to come talk to our people. What we do with this is that after we've shared our messages, we would post them throughout the week. So you're going to be seeing posts of yourself throughout the week to reiterate the message of today and then have it reach a larger group of people. So thank you for coming on. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to let you on. I'm going to leave the stage and give you full um, ownership of this. So this is your show now. Go on and tell us what you have to tell us. Share your story with us and the work you are doing and what the hope is for the future. And then people would have questions and they would have them in the chat if you are able to see them. And then towards the end, I'll come back on. So take it away.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for allowing me to have this platform, not only to share my son, but to share the advocacy that's necessary to combat childhood cancer. First, I'm definitely want to put my best foot forward, so I want to talk about my boy. Santiago was born in 2010. We felt immediately blessed. I was scared and nervous to become a father, and everything changed when you saw his face for the first time. As Santiago grew up, he just immediately became like my best friend. We were connected in every which way. My wife jokes that not only do we look alike, like we share a brain, we act alike, and it's an honor for me to hear that. And like I said, we were just so very tightly woven into each other's lives, and that meant the absolute world to me. Unfortunately, in 2018, we started noticing some differences. He was getting frequent headaches. His balance was a little off, and my wife described it as he kind of looked like he was drunk, like his eyes were glazed and he would just stare. Immediately didn't know anything about it. We were like, well, let's keep an eye on it. I remember telling his teachers, like, can we just keep an eye on him and see what's going on? And then one day we were at basketball practice, and I watched him try to shoot the basketball, and I immediately noticed something was wrong. And I remember just grabbing him, hugging him, and being like, it's okay. Like, we're going to go find out what's wrong. Then, the whirlwind of all the doctors and everything happens. We were blessed that the doctors took it seriously and, immediately had an MRI. And then, we were brought in the room and heard, the most devastating news you could hear. They said our son had DIPG, which stands for diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. Basically, what that means is that there is a tumor on his brain stem, and unfortunately, where it's located and how it's formed makes it inoperable. There's currently no cure for it, and there's very limited treatment options outside of radiation. The only treatment options we had at that time were clinical trials, and we were immediately rushed away to St. Jude and started our journey. Santiago started to degrade very quickly, and we were extremely worried and nervous. And then he just responded amazing to the radiation and the initial treatments that he was receiving at St. Jude. And I got my son back. He was able to go back to school, able to participate in the last basketball game of the season for his team and finish out the school year. We felt beyond blessed. I didn't even think that this was going to come back, even though I knew deep down, there was no cure. And then about 8 months later, he grabbed me and said, "Daddy, I'm starting to have blurry vision again." And I was absolutely devastated. I knew what was coming next. Due to the clinical trials requirements, since his tumor was growing, what we call progression, he was no longer allowed to be in that clinical trial. So we went and called every single doctor in the world who had a trial for DIPG. And unfortunately, at that time, there weren't many that were treating children who had progression. We were blessed to find one in Cincinnati, Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and we started our second clinical trial there. We had some good initial results at first. The tumor shrunk, and he was starting to get some of his physical faculties back, but it was short-lived, unfortunately, and it just started to degrade his body pretty rapidly. What DIPG does, which is criminal in my mind, is that it keeps the brain, as far as your senses and everything, intact, but you start losing functions of your body. Like at first he couldn't move one side of his body, he had trouble swallowing, then it turned into trouble breathing, and it just slowly kept taking and taking and taking. And Santiago was such an amazing athlete and just loved to run and play, that to see him just sitting there and not being able to do the things that he loved was absolutely heartbreaking. And we made the most of it. We joke that my family is tougher than nails, and so we were going to find ways to have fun, and we did. We took him to play putt-putt in a wheelchair. I mean, we used to bowl in the wheelchair. We found ways to make sure every moment he had was special and shared with the people that he loved. And then in 2020, in January, unfortunately, he passed away. Right before he passed away, in those difficult moments of me telling him it's okay, that we'll be okay, I promised him that we would continue our fight, and we would fight for other kids just like him, and that daddy doesn't know how to quit. And with that, we decided we were going to start the SantiagoStrong Foundation. And like every other parent who's been through something like this, those first 6 months were, I could barely move. But the only way to get me to actually think about the next day was trying to start the foundation. And we started super small. We just wanted to do things that Santiago loved doing. And the very first event we did was a mac and cheese cook-off. Mac and cheese and pizza are his favorite foods. So it came very naturally that we did this. And we just started hearing about families initially through Facebook and through other foundations. And our very first child that we were able to help was named Ozzy. And the first day I saw Ozzy, I absolutely fell in love. And I felt that energy all over again, to kind of just, now I have someone else to fight for, someone else, another reason to get off the couch to make sure I wake up today. And then it just grew. And then from there, it's had Mary, and then we had Lucas. We just kept adding more and more families. And like she said earlier, Sunny is a family that we met at our mac and cheese cook-off, is when I found out about Sunny, and she happens to live, 20 minutes away from us. And her family and ours just became intertwined. And, we were there every week. We saw her all the time. I mean, she called me her crazy uncle, and it's an honor that I carry. But yeah, we saw the impact in our own backyard, and that really made the world of difference. And now every day that's what we go to do, is we try to make sure we support families. And our foundation is slightly different. We don't put money towards clinical trials and research. We provide money directly to the families. One of the things we did when Santiago was diagnosed is I immediately quit my job. My wife took a leave, and as a whole family unit, we spent time with him every day. And we saw the difference when he was with his entire family, his sister and his mother. He was a different kid. He fought harder. And we saw other families when we were there that didn't have that. One of the family had to continue to work while the other one was there with sometimes more than one child while going through treatment. And it was so difficult. And I found that heartbreaking, that they had to worry so much about their home life that they couldn't be there every day for their child. So we go out of our way to make sure we could provide funds to those families so that they can be together, so they don't have to worry about the mortgage this month. And now we partner with lots of other foundations to make sure that we do that. so that these families are well taken care of. And, we support everything from bills. We helped buy a family a car. We paid for vacations, camping. And then unfortunately, a lot of times we have to sadly pay for funerals. Nobody has a budget for a funeral for a child. Nobody plans that, nor should they. So we, as a group, go put all our resources together to help pay for these funerals so that they can have the proper send off that their family wants them to have. As I think we're in year 4 now of the foundation, we're trying to grow as much as possible, but the biggest thing we want to continue is that small foundation feel where you can pick up the phone and call us. It doesn't always have to be a paycheck. It could be, hey, I just want to talk to you. I'm having a tough day. We spoke to families that are having MRI days, and I could tell you when an MRI was coming up, you would sit there and just be in a fog and so fearful of possible bad news. So to know that that family can just pick up the phone and call us and say, hey, Eric, we're scared. And we could talk through it. We can help them find treatment avenues. I'll make phone calls for them. I've had to call, unfortunately, to advocate for certain families who I felt like were not being treated appropriately. And I have no problem doing that. Again, like I promised my son, we will continue to fight for these families every single day and with every breath that I have. And that's kind of where the Santiago Strong Foundation now is. I love how she talked about the cars, and that seems so small. And I laughed, when I said, hey, we can give you cars, and we gave her boxes of cars. And now it's on its way to Nigeria. And I remember laughing, thinking, how cool is that the foundation has reached a family as far away as in Nigeria. And we've helped families in Germany, Australia, spoke to someone from India. We've way beyond my wildest dreams, people that I've spoke to, but it is very important that we continue this work. I love what they're doing with advocacy. The more people that hear what goes on, the better it is. I could tell you, I heard about DIPG maybe 4 years before Santiago was diagnosed, and I couldn't watch the whole episode of that show that they were describing it because it was heartbreaking. I was crushed. And I'll never forget, Santiago walked into the room and was like, Daddy, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing, boy, nothing you need to worry about. And now I think back to that moment and I feel like I failed. I feel like that was my moment then to become an advocate, and I didn't. And part of me is ashamed for that. Becoming an advocate after something has happened to you, I feel like is easier. But I'm hoping that people who hear my voice now can then change that, and they could become advocates without having to have, the devastation that we went through. I know it's forever changed me and forever changed my family. But I think if I have to really think about it, I'm a better person now than I was prior. And I don't know if that's, God's plan or whatever. Like she said, I never know what tomorrow brings. But I do know that I can change tomorrow by my actions today. And that's why, we're going to continue to have this foundation until I take my last breath. We'll have it. You'll see the Santiago Strong, the red sneakers. Santiago's favorite color was red. And so we bought him red sneakers when he was first in treatment. And then we all started wearing red sneakers. And then we became the red shoe guys. And now I have nothing but red shoes. And I love it because now when I'm feeling sad or weak, I can look down, see my shoes, and know that that's Santiago looking at me saying, you're brave today, Daddy, be brave. And so now when I see anybody wearing red shoes, it makes me smile and makes me think about him and think about why we're doing what we're doing. But it's hard to say you're blessed after all this, but I know I am. I've been blessed to meet some amazing people, some phenomenal children, and some amazing parents. And I don't take that for granted. I know that people share their children with us, and I hold that to the highest regard. And I am thankful for those families that do share their children with us. It is an absolute honor to help those families. And like I said, if I can say anything in closing, it's, just be there for each other. It doesn't always have to be monetary. Sometimes just a shoulder to cry on, someone to listen to, but just another voice in the community, another person who says, hey, have you ever heard of DIPG? If not, here it is. It's terrible and the world needs a cure. And the only way we get that is by advocating for it. So again, thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to share my son Santiago with you. Thank you for listening. And again, thank you in advance for becoming an advocate, not just for DIPG, but for pediatric cancer as a whole. No child should ever have to go through this, and no family should have to ever feel like they're in this type of hell without the resources.
Hello. Thank you, Eric, for that such an emotional conversation. I listened to you, and it was literally like me talking. Just like you, Kanima was our first child, my only boy, and we had a lot in common. So it was literally just like I was hearing myself talk, the passion you put into this, having to leave work just to be there for your son, which is not something I was telling a lot of families have. A lot of children have seen fathers being physically
Correct.
present. You get to see a lot more mothers. You do not get to see so many fathers directly involved. The sacrifice of having to leave your work, having to depend on others to support you through the difficult time. And yes, I would agree with you. Was one of the best sacrifices I would also say that I did, being there for my son. The moments when I ever would leave to travel, his health, his emotions, his mental status would go down. And so, yeah, I would totally agree that being there as a family, as a father, meant a whole lot to Santiago, and I'm sure he would forever be grateful to you for that. But really, I appreciate you sharing this story of yours with me. And I love the fact that you focus on being there for the families. It's just one of the three-pronged things for us to be there to support families. We maybe focusing a lot on awareness and raising and on advocacy, but yes, I strongly believe that being there for the families, it's probably the very most important thing that we can ever do, because the impact is so massive that we probably can never ever recover from the huge loss or even the suffering for those who are still going through it. Yeah, I just want to say thank you again for um, being here with us and sharing this story. And it's unimaginable having a son like who would want to be like you, grow up to be like you, looking up to you, and all of a sudden you can't help him. I would say that it is sometimes difficult for us to beat our chest and say we did a lot for our kids, and we sometimes allow the pain, the guilt to
Yeah.
overwhelm us. But I would just listening to you, I don't know your full story. I would tell you that you are a great dad and you have no reason to feel guilty. You're doing your part as a man, as a dad, as a father figure, not only for Santiago, but for every other child who's got to go through you with what you do. So there is no reason to feel guilty. I would want to encourage you to keep your head up and just know that you're amazing. I'm very proud of you, and I know that a lot of people look up to you and would tell you truthfully that you're awesome. Thank you again.
Well, thank you. That means an awful lot. And like I said, father to father, what you said is exactly 100% true. We don't see enough fathers in this fight, and I I wish that was different. I just like you said, it made a difference when I was in the room and I wasn't, and that means the world to me. And
Sure.
just hearing you
Sure.
speak again, I feel the same way for you. I hope you feel the same way, that you impacted your son in many beautiful ways. You taught all of everything you could to your son, just
Right.
in a compacted time. And like I said, I'm definitely proud of how I fought for my son. I do feel like there's moments where I didn't do enough, and I don't think I can ever shake that. And I don't know if I want to always, but I know, like, again, I gave him every ounce that I have, and again, continue to do so, just like you do. And that's the best way you can show it. So again, thank you for being here. Again, it's an honor to meet you. And again, like I said, I wish there were more fathers collectively together during these types of fights, so that they can see others that, it's possible for you to be there for your child.
That's very true. Thank you again, Eric. I appreciate you. Hopefully, we get to connect more. Thanks again.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. This just having you here, talking to people, and you're talking to people from all over the world. There are Nigerians in this chat, there are people from Canada in this chat, there are people here in the United States, and many more people are going to hear as we continue to share on all our social media. But it's I tell people that people think that, sharing this story is hard, and it is hard, but it
Hmm.
is the story that needs to be shared. We need to
Yes, very
continue
much
to
so.
talk about our kids, because they were here and because they matter, and because through them we are doing the work that we never would have thought to do.
Correct.
And that is very important. And like you said, um, advocating or getting into advocacy, from a point of personal loss, is different, is admirable. But
Hmm.
we are hoping to raise, a bunch of, or should I call it a band of advocates who do not have to lose a child to advocate,
Correct.
because
Very
that
much
way
so.
we can get a lot more people involved in it. And you telling your story, that loss, because every child that's lost to this world, that's a future lost,
Hmm.
that's a generation lost.
Yes.
And we need to really speak out more, so people know that, childhood cancer is not just bald head and funny Spider-Man or Superman, photos. Childhood cancer is grueling, it's
It is.
devastating, it's painful. If I know that we often do not talk about the intricacies of this journey,
Yes.
pain. So just listening to you talk about the MRI, I started hearing the MRI sound in my head.
Oh, yeah.
Go off.
Yeah.
And to know that you have to go through that maybe every 3 months,
Hmm.
sometimes 6 weeks, depending on how aggressively the tumor is growing. And that child has to get in there, and they are so claustrophobic,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's a whole other conversation. So there are stages of this journey that people do not understand, but
Correct.
we have to make them understand it,
Hmm.
because this is not just, oh, go sit down and get, I don't know, maybe, I mean, there are kids that just go into the clinic, get chemo, and go home and don't turn up in another 3 weeks. But for the
Yeah.
most of these kids, they end up in the hospital after a
Yes.
treatment. That's how grueling these treatments are. And it's going to take families like ours to come together and talk about people or the government putting money where their mouths are.
Hmm.
It's not about the fancy pictures and the photo
Hmm.
ops, and it's not about, making things look nice. It is not nice.
No,
There is
nothing. Not pretty.
nothing nice about your child wasting away before your very eyes. You wouldn't know your child. By the end of it, you can't recognize that child
No,
anymore.
no, it doesn't look the same. You're right.
And that is why conversations like this are very important, because these are real people, these are real families. And to have you come in here, I would like for you to talk a little bit about what May means, what this month means to you, and what you are doing, and, how we can best advocate for brain cancer in
Yeah.
children.
Yes, May is Brain Cancer Awareness Month. So for the whole month, every day, we're trying to raise our voices and make sure people hear, again, not just our story, but every story. Because like she just said, brain cancer is not one that's pretty. It takes away, like I spoke about, takes away your ability to do almost everything, but your consciousness is still there. You could still hear, you could still think, but you won't be able to say the words. We need to change that. DIPG's, Awareness Day, was the 17th. And again, like we talked about where it is in the brain, it being inoperable, any tumor that's inside your brain, the operation is beyond risky. Santiago had to have a biopsy done in order for him to qualify for certain treatment, and that's brain surgery. And we've saw children who had the biopsy and had damage done to their brains because of the biopsy. So it was a risk, and that's just step one in order for them to get treated. Unfortunately, I'm not a huge fan of when they talk about, hey, like, this is your month to speak out. I'm taking advantage of that platform and just saying it, but it should be every day. We talk about going gray for gray matter. So a lot of times you'll see people wearing the gray, or you'll see the posts that say go gray in May. It's just, again, to keep reminding folks that this is happening. This is happening every day. This is happening to people that you don't know about who suffer in silence. DIPG affects children more so than and younger children, from ages 4, as young as 2, and sometimes younger, but the average age is between 4 and 11. These are children who haven't even started friend groups. These are children who sometimes have never been into school, and they don't have that group of friends and family from their, like, the school community to help support them. These are kids who are if they're in daycare, or they're just still at home with another family member. 90% of kids with DIPG don't survive past 2 years. The average length of survival is about 11 months for DIPG. That's horrifying. And brain tumors especially are the leading cause of pediatric cancer deaths. And, just imagine, your brain is the powerhouse of your entire body, and for there to be an abnormality there with, a cancer, the odds are that, again, it's inoperable. And then all the treatments really are take a toll on that child's body. I'm expecting a 4-year-old, like she said, to go into an MRI every month, and then to have some of them have shunts put in their brain so that they can get the treatment right in there. And then you have the blood-brain barrier, which is there to protect your brain. But in these instances, it makes it almost impossible for medication to access the tumor, because the blood-brain barrier is so difficult to have medications cross over. This is why we have this month of May where we can spread the word, because we need funding. We need more doctors willing to get into this fight with us. We need more treatment options. I could tell you, from when Santiago was diagnosed in 2018 to now in 2025, there are so many more clinical trials that it's exciting to hear that we're getting somewhere. But unfortunately, the results have still been the same. We're looking at, again, the max of 2 years for some of these children to survive. And sometimes that survival isn't quality of life. Again, we were blessed that Santiago did get a lot of his faculties back, but the last, 30 weeks of his life were spent in an ICU. I didn't want that for him, and no one should want that for their child either. DIPG steals, brain cancer steals from us. It steals their physical attributes, but as a parent, it stole my child, and it, stole all the things that I wanted for him to see when he's growing up. My son would be turning 16 soon, and I just can't imagine the idea that I would want him to drive. I remember being nervous when he was born that one day I'm going to have to teach him to drive, and I'm going to have to let him out of my sight. And then now to not have that ability is heartbreaking. I have another child who has, been seeing the worst with my son. And, I love that she's a part of the foundation, and she jumps right in with these families as well. But she's seen so much death due to DIPG, and she's seen what it physically has done, not just to her brother, but to other people she's loved, like Sonny, like Ozzy, like some of these other families. And no child should have to see that much death. And it, again, like I said, I'm choking up thinking about it for her. But we need this month to be every month. We need people to hear our voices and to become advocates. We need, like she said, government to step in and really support. Brain cancer and pediatric cancer doesn't get 4% of the budget goes to pediatric cancer. These are kids without a voice. They need a voice. They need your voice. They need people who have impact to speak on their behalf, because they can't lobby Congress. They're not a voting bloc. They don't pay taxes. So right now they're the quiet ones that are pushed to the side, and we need that to be the opposite. We need them to be pushed to the front of the line. We've seen amazing um, improvements in other types of cancer, and we need to start seeing that in brain cancer. We need to start seeing that funding and those treatments and those doctors to come to our side and help these kids so that they can have the same quality of life as every other child deserves.
Thank you so much, Mr. I wanted to say Mr. Santiago.
Hey, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, of course, it would be. I love it when people say my son's name. It's
Oh
like
yeah,
the
same here.
sweetest, it's like the sweetest
Hmm.
word that I could ever hear. So I know that is the same for you too.
Hmm. Very much.
Because we never want them to be forgotten so long as we are here. And then you are actually, making sure that he endures.
Yes, man.
This foundation is not just the work you do, but it's the legacy that you leave behind for a child that was very much loved.
Yes.
And that is an amazing thing to do. So if anybody has a question, please put it in the chat. I know that these conversations are not pretty, but these conversations they should be had. People need to talk about this, because the more we talk about these things, the more people can see that this is real. People can see that these are actual people, these are actual families that are affected. And so this is the work that we try to do, that I know you are also trying to do, advocating for a niche disease
Yeah, it's tough.
is I don't know. I mean, childhood cancer, like you rightly said, childhood cancer by itself, it's already not widely known or supported. People just mouth off on it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, well, that is not what we need. We need
Mm-hmm.
you to put the money where your mouth is. Let's, get people to do the actual work that needs to be done for these kids. Research is the only way we win.
Yep.
Research is the only way. And, the more the world gets more into diagnostics, the more we'll know that these things are not as rare as
Yeah. Agreed.
because once in a while, once before, people used to think it's so rare. It's so rare.
It's not.
If it is so rare, why do we have 1,800 kids die in the United States each year?
No, yeah.
This is the United States. We are not even talking about Europe,
Correct.
Australia, Africa. We're not putting two numbers together. China, India. This is only the United States. And this is a place where, they like to tie up on the 85% cure for childhood cancer. But when you come right down to the actual diseases, like the DIPG, like DSRCT, like my son had, those are the ones with the bad outcome. Nobody wants to talk about those.
Nobody. Mm-hmm.
We want every child to get a cure. But there are some childhood cancers that do not even get a protocol. It's even difficult to agree on, no, this is the treatment for this. The more we get to research into this, get to study it, and you only get, unless you're a medical person and you choose oncology, you get into this after your child has gotten in, or a
Correct.
family member. And you
Mm-hmm.
begin to read and you're like, oh my God, they used to say 85% cure. What am I looking at? You're looking at 10% for maybe 2 years.
2 years. That's crazy.
5 years will be like 5%. But you're not going to hear those numbers out loud. We don't hear those numbers until you go deep into it. So we need to hear more about the difficult ones.
Mm-hmm.
These are the ones that need the attention. These are the ones that these are the ones that make up the 1,800 kids a year.
Yes.
Because you get 85-90% of children dying. And like you talked about, the quality of life is not great.
Oh.
Even when you're talking about, for DSRC2, it's also 2 years. But what is the quality of life within those 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Kids are not able to do what they've traditionally been able to do. Kids are not themselves. Kids are, going through all kinds of things. Our families are torn apart in the midst of all of this. So I am so happy that you are able to be here today. And I'm so happy that everyone that's come on here is hearing, the facts that is real. And there shouldn't be any sugarcoating of these things because this is real life. This is real life. I was talking to someone a couple weeks ago and I said, I have pictures of my son in my phone that I cannot bear to look at.
Oh, same.
I created a folder and I put it in, I put a lock on it, I put a code on it so I do not mistakenly scroll through it
Mm-hmm.
because my child became unrecognizable
Correct.
because of cancer. And so this this is not cute in any way. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
dress up these children and call them superheroes, but so that they can fight a little harder, but they
Yeah.
see the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
When you have to bath them in the morning, when you have to drag them out of bed and carry them and put them in a wheelchair to be able to get from one place to the other, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I am thankful for you and for other families who, through that, are able to get on a journey to help other people. And most importantly, to advocate. So thank you so much for being here.
And thank you. Thank you. I can't say how grateful I am to have met you and your family and all the wonderful things you do. You are all over social media. I can't pull up social media without seeing you. I wish I had that ability. So I love seeing it. I love seeing all the advocacy and everything that you're doing. Again, it takes bravery to stand in front of a camera and do all those things and put yourself out there and allow the vulnerabilities of the world that we live in to be judged. But I am so thankful for what you're doing, and I'm so grateful that we've met and that we continue to support each other and just keep growing and keep spreading awareness and sharing our children's names every single day. So thank you for having us.
Santiago's daddy. Thank you. I want to use this opportunity to invite you to our event next month. I know that we've been talking about it. We are going to hold a 5K.
Yes.
Nemo's birthday is actually June 13, but since June 13 is a Friday, we're going to hold the run on June 14. It's going to be here in Spartanburg, South Carolina, at the University of South Carolina upstate. But you can also choose to do it virtually. We would like to have you in person if you can make it. But if
I
you
will
cannot make
try.
it in person, we would still appreciate. I would love to meet your little.
Oh, yes.
But if you are not able to make it, we would also understand.
Oh, we
Thank
would love to be
you so much,
there. I don't.
so
I
much.
don't know if I
And
can handle a 5K, but we'll try.
you can walk.
Yeah.
I intend to walk. I'm not in another lifetime. I was a runner, but I guess it's not who I am
Mhm.
anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for taking
Yes.
the time
Thank
to.
you.
And guys, let's appreciate Mr. Eric in the chat. He has been amazing, and the exposition that has come from you this afternoon, it's really, really amazing. And we will be sharing this, and so people can hear from
Mhm.
your own voice um, what you've been through with your family and what you are hoping to achieve in the future. And so extend our love to your wife and your mom, that
Yes.
Yolanda, to your
Yes. You're allowed to. Yes.
is amazing.
Yes. Thank
I'd
you.
love to have, please. And let's do this again sometime
Yes,
whenever
for sure.
you're ready. I would really love to have you back on. uh,
Likewise.
God bless you and your
Yeah.
family.
Likewise.
All
All
right,
right.
good one.
You too. Bye bye.